I'll just wing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we that's usually what we do on this podcast. Sometimes I tell people, like, I don't prepare for it at all. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah,
I guess it's easy for you guys. I mean, you have your 3 questions.
Yeah.
But then I guess you need a prompt
Yeah.
in your own way.
But I always also say that people are like, I don't have much to say about myself. And like, it's like literally just talking about yourself. It's the easiest topic in the world.
Literally.
For you.
You're an expert.
Yeah.
Don't worry about
Yeah,
it.
you're the only expert. So yeah. Cool. Oh, let me do a clap. Oh,
Wow.
best one ever. Welcome back, everyone, to the Chip Lunch Podcast. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for joining us, Braden.
Oh, thank you.
This is the new location. Doesn't it look fantastic?
It looks amazing.
It's the first stages of building a podcast studio.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Because we're here at Miranda Congregational Church, and we're testing things out.
Yeah.
Are you ready for it?
Am I
Excited?
ready? Am I ready?
Sounds super excited.
Oh, so excited. So excited.
It's just like you've got nothing else to say after that.
What do you want? What do you want from me, Joel?
I want you to say, I can't wait for
Dance
it, Joel.
monkey.
Yeah, I can't wait for it, Joel. It's going to be
Joel,
amazing.
I just can't wait. I'm so excited.
Joel, you're such a great leader in the digital ministry. You're amazing. Anyway.
Validation from anywhere.
I wouldn't love any kind of
You're
validation.
doing a great job.
Thank you. Anything else
I
you'd
think
like
we've
to
got
say
like
about
after
me?
going from no intros, I feel like we have like 3 clips in for the start.
That's very true. I was just checking the cables; they're not touching any power. That's why I was looking around, but we're all good because we don't want that annoying buzz noise. But let's introduce our guest, shall we?
Yes.
Sarah, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you.
You said you've been listening to a few of these episodes now. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've listened to most of them on my drive to work.
Cool. Well, that's a good time to do it. It's the right time to do it. Do you have a favourite one at the moment?
Oh, I don't know. I'm pretty much a fish. Like a goldfish.
Fish driving a car is not a good thing.
I can't really remember. Like when I'm listening to them, I'm like, oh, wow, this is really interesting. But then a day later and I've forgotten.
That's okay. One thing that you did tell me, though, when we were chatting about you coming on was that you like to find out, you're finding out more about people at church. Is that how you still feel?
Yeah. Well, I feel like because I'm an introvert, people I don't know, like, I don't know, it kind of, listening to the podcast makes me feel a bit more, like, not safe with that person, but like,
You feel like you can talk to them
more
a bit
confident
more.
to, I don't know, then I've got something to talk about, like, oh, listen to your podcast.
Yeah, that is a good way to it. It is one of the goals of the podcast, isn't it? Is that you can learn about me and Braden.
And even
And
like
Sarah.
getting more of a depth to like people that I know, but then listening to their podcast, it's like, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that explains a lot, or I don't know.
Just before we started recording, you were saying that Tyson can't wait to hear it because he's going to find out all these juicy details about you. So far.
Yeah.
Well, yes, so thank you for being the first guest in the developing studio. That's what we'll call it. Braden,
Iteration 1.
please.
Okay.
Yes, sorry. No, you don't need to validate me me anymore.
Okay.
Could you
Want that in
please?
writing. Sarah, how do you like your hot chips?
This is one question that I've been thinking about,
It is the big question. Isn't it?
and I don't know if I have an answer.
Oh.
I don't know. I know that, I mean, in terms of like the chicken salt, I know that's a big controversy, but I'm neither here nor there
Okay.
with the salt. Because
Yeah.
I think, add sauce, add salt, it all works.
Yeah.
But I think the chip itself needs to be crispy on the outside and like fluffy on the inside.
Yeah.
So you get the crunch, you get the contrast. You have like the
Yeah.
fluffiness and the crunchiness. Or I do like finding the really crunchy ones when it's just
Yeah.
like fried to the max.
All the way through.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like just the satisfying crunch that you get.
So the crunch is important for you.
It is.
Does that mean though that you prefer a thicker chip though? Because you got to get so you can get the fluffiness.
I think so. Maybe like a medium thickness. I don't know. But at the moment, my favourite chip would have to be Jensen's, the vinegar. Is it the salt vinegar chippies? The hot chippies that they do?
Yeah.
I don't know.
They're really yummy.
Yeah.
Oh, Jensen's the restaurant, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if I've had those.
But like,
I think I've only been once to Jensen's.
I go all the time. Well, not all the time. I've been like 3 times.
To the classy establishment of the Shire, yes, I go there all the time.
Yeah. But like, other than that, I don't really get hot chips that much. I was thinking about like my history with hot chips.
Yes.
And my grandparents used to live in St. George's Basin.
Yep.
And like all my cousins would come out like during big holiday, like Easter, Christmas.
Yeah.
And I don't know where they got the hot chips from, but it was in like the classic like newspaper.
Yeah.
And they would get like 4 massive things of chips, and then we all
Yeah.
have like our bread and
Yes.
just load her up.
But it's kind of like that. I feel like you're talking about the memory of doing that with family.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is cool.
But apart from that, like, I don't know, that kind of stopped. And now I'm like, chips.
Yeah, well, I definitely don't have hot chips anywhere near as I used to as well. That makes sense. I was thinking, it is funny, like we ask that question every so often of like, do you have like a memory? And a lot of them are related to family. Hot chips for some reason are related to doing something with family, I suppose. It's like a special thing. Because you're probably not getting them every day. So it's a little bit of a treat.
Yeah.
Well, like, you can't really live off chips.
Well, you could try.
You can try.
Yeah, you can try, but it's not a good move.
It won't be a good life.
It's like once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Because then you
why,
finish
yeah.
and you're like, probably couldn't do that tomorrow.
And a lot of people like yourself like talk about it being on holidays too, and like being near the beach. It's always a
Yeah.
thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like fish and chips or whatever. It's always near the beach as well.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense. St. George's Basin, good place though.
Yeah.
That whole area. That's down near Jarvis Bay, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Tell us about that. So what would you do when you went down to Jarvis Bay / St. George's Basin?
Well, they lived on the basin, so
it's like an internal lake kind of thing, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah. And I don't know, we would go out swimming, like, I don't know if we had maybe we had kayaks, but my family are very like water sport, like sailing and
Water skiing?
yeah, water skiing, all the things. But yeah, I don't know. There was one memory, my old dog, she never, like, she hated the water. And there was one, like, she loved my nana, and I remember we went out and I think my nana was splashing around having fun, and Emmy jumped in the water, swam the whole way out, and then realised that she was fine, swam back in. But
really?
it was just like the most random situation to be in.
So fully against water until
And then she thought that something was wrong
with your nana.
with my nana.
Oh.
So it was like she went into protection mode and had to go and suss it out.
Yeah.
But we used to collect jelly blubbers and put them
Yeah.
in the kayak. I don't know why, but we did. Like, we
Yeah.
just had
They're non-stinging ones, right?
Yeah, they're like the ones. My memory of jelly blubbers is being at Swallow Rock, throwing them at each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like
Or
my
pushing
younger
them through
cousins
someone's rasher.
would put them in the sun and like bake them.
Yeah.
And now looking back, it's not very ethical.
Yeah, I don't know if they have a brain
No.
or a nervous system.
Actually, jellyfish are the only animal of sorts that can clone themselves. Like, if they break in half, they're then identical clones.
I think I've
Yeah.
heard something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, which is quite interesting.
There you go.
Imagine that, if I cut you in half and then you just clone
I already
yourself.
have a clone.
Well, you do have a clone. That's true. You do have a clone. I forgot about that.
Don't
Being a
need
twin.
more.
Very good. Very nice. Cool. Next question. What?
This is a smooth segment. Next question.
Next question. That's like something you say, someone like a question you don't want to answer. So
Yeah.
you're like, next question.
Next question.
I'll have the next question. Thank you. Next question, Sarah, is how did you become a Christian?
I
Probably
don't
the
know.
most important one.
I've been trying to think about this, but I think, I've been quite blessed in that, like, I went to a Christian school and, like, my parents are Christian, my grandparents are Christian.
Right.
So it's always been, like, around me. But then, like, looking back, like, I don't think I've had a defining moment. I think I've just kind of ebbed and flowed in my faith. Like I've never questioned it in a way of just processing like the concept.
Yeah, we all do that.
Yeah, but not like I've never doubted it. But I don't know. I found going to a Christian school, like it was great in that it was like a little bubble and like all the teachers are like, I feel like the sense of community is a lot greater to what I've heard with like people that haven't gone to a Christian school. But then I also found it quite overwhelming in the sense of like I felt like I never lived up to other people in the school. Like I felt like their faith was always a lot more obvious and a lot stronger. And like it was, I don't know, because it was a Christian school, like you pray, like we had pastoral care where like you had to do a little Bible study, I guess, and everyone prays for everyone, or like even through different classes, like if someone's sick, you know, let's just take a moment to pray for this person. But like I didn't find I had the confidence, because like listening to everyone, like they're so, like I find my, like how I speak, I don't know, it's quite colloquial and, you know, not, you know, you listen to some people and it's like, wow, like they're really good at putting words together.
Right.
Yeah.
So like their prayers were just very elaborate and beautiful.
Yeah.
And then mine would just be so basic, like, oh, like heal this person, or I don't know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Quite basic.
Yeah.
But and all, yeah, I don't know. So I found school a little, and then I found as well a lot more judgment being in a Christian school, because I felt like, I mean, I was living what I think was a Christian life in my own way, but I wasn't, you know, out there with like going to, I don't know, like the lunchtime Christian groups and stuff like that. I was like more of an individual Christian, if that makes sense. So I found, like I even had one teacher, and this is like stuck in my mind. I think I was in like year 10, and because I laugh a lot and like I'd chat, and like so through school, you know, I was just, I don't know, I was still a good student, I think. But so I was like laughing, and he stopped the whole class. His face was red with rage, and he just started yelling at me, being like, you need to take a good hard look at yourself, like you are not a Christian, and like just throwing all this stuff at me. And he was the studies of religion teacher, and I kind of like, and I'm quite emotional. So like I just like burst into tears, like, oh my gosh, like what's just happened?
Well, especially being called out in front of the whole class.
Exactly. And I'm like, all I did was just giggle. Like like I wasn't like, I never like acted out in school or anything like that. So then that kind of, I don't know, that was kind of a good kind of wake up call to not judge people based on how they act, like, because you don't know their heart. Like he had no idea what goes on in my mind or what my intentions are. So for him to judge me based on me giggling and, you know, having fun, like I think that was good to like in just everyday life to not judge anyone that I come across, which is such a big thing in Christianity. Like it's a big thing, like, you know, not to judge anyone, because we're not the ones to judge. God is at the end of the day. But within Christian circles, it's one of those things that always comes up, like, oh, this person just did that. Oh, like they mustn't be, you know.
But I feel like that's probably accentuated at a Christian school, right?
Yeah. Like it's just a lot more. So I found, with the Christian school, like it was good, but there was definitely, and like I was listening to some podcasts because I went to Solent Track Christian School, and it was just funny listening to their experiences versus my experience.
Oh, okay.
Because I wouldn't say, like, I don't know, I obviously had a different experience to them. But yeah, it was very interesting.
Is there any something that we always talk about with people that have grown up in Christian families is that they feel like there's a moment where they take on their faith for themselves. Like they know all the answers, or they know, I know what Christianity is. But then it was like there's a moment where they go, yes, I am a Christian. Did you have any of those times that you can remember?
Not really. I don't know. I kind of struggled, I guess, because we used to go to Heath Dean Baps, like as a family. And then that kind of fell apart when I was like maybe 12, I think. I'm not sure. And then we just, like, I found it really hard to find another church that I felt comfortable in going to. So I think a lot of my year kind of jumped between Engadine Anglican and Menai Anglican, I think. So I tried those out, but I didn't really feel, I guess, this sense of community that everyone was like going on about. Like,
I didn't feel at home there.
Yeah, like it just didn't feel right. Like I was going, but it didn't, I don't know. So then I didn't really go to a church for a while. And then I went to St. Luke's for a bit. But like I never stopped. Like I've always believed I'm a Christian. But then there are moments of doubt, like, oh, have I done enough? Like I haven't had that moment. Like I've given my life over, but I haven't had, like, you know, when you listen to people and they're like, oh, it was just like this relief or like a sense of peace. But I think it's more, I don't know, since meeting Tyson, and like coming to Soul Revival, it's when I've actually felt the most at peace and at home with my faith. Like I think I finally feel like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. Like I just kind of feel like I'm at home, if that makes sense.
What do you think you were looking for before that though?
I think...
What was making you not feel at home? And what were you think you were seeking?
I'm not sure. It's hard. Like I have no idea what it was. It was just like, I guess, a community that I felt comfortable in. Because like at all the other churches, like I kind of felt like an outsider, like I didn't belong there.
Yeah.
Whereas I've never once felt that at Soul Revival. Like I've always felt really included and like supported. And I feel like people have made a really big effort, like even if I don't know them, like because there's still so many people that I haven't met.
Yeah. Oh, Ethan has just walked in on the podcast to check we're behaving. Sorry, keep going, sir.
And like even if I haven't met them, they've still made an effort to, you know, just make an effort to ask like, how are you going, and little things like that, where I felt like other churches I've been to, and like I don't want to judge them or put them under the bus, but I feel like it's more of a superficial welcoming. Like they make a big effort to put on this like massive elaborate like welcome, like this is really exciting, but deep down they don't really have that desire to make a relationship with you.
Okay,
that
like
makes
something
sense.
about being genuine?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, they don't have that genuine kind of characteristic that I've been searching for, I guess.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't know.
Yeah. What do you think you were searching for that though?
I think I just wanted, I guess, validation. Well, not validation, but I wanted a space that I felt that I could be in, I don't know, like a Christian community. Like I could be part of it instead of just attending.
Oh,
like,
right.
you know what I mean? Like instead of just going to church on a Sunday and then leaving. Because now thinking about it, when I got my first horse, Libby, when I was in year 6, I actually stopped going to church because like weekends I was like early in the morning to late at night I'd be out there riding. And now looking back, I kind of regret it because I was putting my hobby before God. And I kind of pushed him to the side. I mean, I can't change that, but it's kind of given me a lot of hindsight in like priorities and I don't know. Soul Revival has also kind of helped me in my faith, like just little details in like putting God before everything else. And like say if there's a party not that I go to many parties, but like if there's an event on, you know, you can be an hour late and still go to church, like to not sacrifice that community time.
This is what I actually love doing on the podcast, is actually figuring stuff out. Like we do it on the Shock Absorber all the time. So I'm enjoying like the way that you're talking about it. So was that maybe there was the desire you were saying that to have to be part of a community, but also were you kind of looking for something to commit to as well in that sense? Like so that's why. Maybe, and not to blow Soul Revival's trumpet too much here, but that's something that we really value, I suppose, at Soul Revival, is committing long term to something. And maybe once you became part of that, you're like, oh, this is what I've been looking for. And I suppose it's interesting that you balance that with talking about the first horse. It's like thinking about what am I committed to the most. And I think that's kind of what like the initial question was, like, where is there a time that you make those decisions? And it's not so much as like when you became Christian, but it's also like there's these points in your life, and I can think back of my own as well, of like going, oh, actually I value church more than this other thing. And I think that's what you're talking about there. And it happens at all different stages of our life. Like I'm not saying that it's just when you came to Soul Revival that was the only time you thought about it, because you talked about Libby, your horse, as well. So, but that's what I'm hearing from you, which is actually really cool. Let's ask you about that hobby though, because like horses are really important to you. So maybe I mean, that might help us actually unravel a few more things anyway. So you got why? I think it's not just horses, but right, it's like you love animals.
Yes.
Where do you think that comes from first, and then we'll talk about Libby?
I don't know. I guess I've always loved animals. I don't even like the reason I got into horses is quite random. A friend from Heath-Dean Baps, actually, she was actually on Home and Away. Like back in the day, but when she was younger, she had a pony called Patch, and like I used to like mum would take me over and plonk me on Patch when I was like 3 or like at a young age, and I think like that was probably my first experience with horses, and I honestly can't tell you, like, because my family aren't horsey at all, so it's just, I don't know, I find like from what I've heard with other, you know, horse gals, like there could be no family relation, but it's there, the love for horses. And yeah, like there's just so many qualities about horses that I love. And yeah, so I got Libby when I was, I think 12, and I had her for 3 years. And then she unfortunately cracked her hip and had to get put down, which it was a chaotic. It
would have been a difficult time for you.
It was. And even like, especially for my dad, because she'd cracked her hip and like we're waiting for x-rays and stuff like that. So, I think Mum took me to the movies to get my mind off it while they were doing all the scans. And in that time, the vet was like, no, she's cracked her hip because of her age. It's the most humane thing to put her down. And Dad was like, well, can you hold off like an hour and a half for Sarah to come and say goodbye? And everyone, like, because this was at Darks Forest, heaps of people around, and equestrians are known for being know-it-alls. And so they were all like hammering my dad, being like, this is the work, like, you're so cruel, put the horse down now, blah, blah, blah. So then Dad had the ethical dilemma of, do I let my daughter say goodbye, or like, because she's been in pain for how many hours? An hour extra isn't going to make much of a difference in the scheme of things. But I'm really glad that he stuck to that and he let me say goodbye because
Yeah.
I don't know, it's kind of like a closure in that. And then it was the most beautiful thing because we were driving off and I remember, like, I've never seen a shooting star apart from this moment, but we were driving home and the brightest shooting star went straight over us. So I like to think that was her going off. But I don't know, I think it's the connection that you can share with, I find I identify better with animals, if that makes sense. Like I like being in my own space, but obviously not alone. Like, I don't know, like just going out riding or even with my dog, it's like my time, but I'm not alone in that.
Right. You want to be away from humans, but you don't want to be alone.
Because like I find like I am an introvert and like when I'm around people, I tend to get quite drained. Whereas when I'm with animals, it's just like, I don't know, I'm in nature and it's also like, because I studied a Bachelor of Biodiversity and Conservation, which is, there was a lot of subjects in evolution and all that side of things. And I remember like always being hammered for my belief in creation as opposed to like, I don't know, like I agree with evolution to a degree, like
elements of it.
Like adaptation is always going to happen.
Yeah.
And who says the Big Bang wasn't creation? Like who says that it couldn't have been a Big Bang?
Yeah.
Like I just find that really entertaining. But I don't know where I was going with that. I just started talking.
That's all right. So you were studying that?
Yeah.
But that was related. Did you study that because of like trying to look after animals?
I wanted to go into work with animals. I wasn't sure because I wasn't really, I would say, the brightest in school. Like I always tried really hard.
Yeah.
But like I was never getting, 100%. I was kind of middle range. So I didn't actually think I would get into anything. So when I got into this degree, I was like, wow, I've actually done this. Like this is really cool.
What uni was it at?
Macquarie.
Okay.
And like I loved it. It kind of just highlighted creation and like everything is so intricate.
Yeah.
Like if the solar system was out by like a mil, it'd be a catastrophe, and like everything's in such a beautiful balance.
Yeah.
Even with the body, with like the life cycle, even like the rain cycle.
Yeah.
Like everything is just so perfect. How can that happen?
And that all works together.
Yeah.
Too, right. Yeah.
Like how can there not be a higher power like God designing that? How can it just happen?
That's how I feel about it too.
Yeah. Like it blows my mind that like, I mean, everyone's, able to have their own view, but I find it really funny to think people have such a surface level view on creation. And just because it's related to religion, they might not identify as being religious. So therefore they don't agree with creation, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like if it wasn't to do with a religion, then they might be more open to it. But then,
okay.
I don't know.
But then obviously if it's created by a divine being, then it needs to relate to religion anyway, doesn't
it?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a funny, I don't know. I just find that really funny.
No, it is an interesting way to think about it. I was going to ask you though, finishing school. Oh, that's one question I was going to, doing that degree, did that, and highlighting like the intricacies of creation, did that help you with your faith? Did it strengthen your faith?
It did. It was hard, I guess. Oh, I guess it was good because I find I've always put myself in situations where I'm not with people, because I guess I went to a Christian school, so like that's all fine. But then after that, I was always in situations that I had to, I guess, like share my faith in a way, like, because the lecturer would be like, oh, so Big Bang, like, or they would ask you, questions on evolution or stuff like that. And I'll be like, oh, well, I don't technically agree with what you're saying. But it was kind of good for me to process that with someone else that doesn't have a faith.
So you can articulate yourself better.
Yeah, because I find when you can talk about it with someone that doesn't share the same view, you kind of have to be a lot more mindful of how you're sharing it. And it kind of helps you to process.
Yeah, well, it's like anything though, that you find something that doesn't agree with you, or it's a lot harder. Like you've got to get better at communicating your point of view. So that's why you're saying like it helped you like go deeper on understanding like this is what I think God's creation is, and I've got to. How did they go down like sharing that in a tutorial / lecture?
It's funny because it actually happened recently because I've had a couple of like going back to uni moments. So this year I was actually meant to do Master of Education, and I went to one class. And that was the last one. But it was a master in science teaching. And the first question he asked was, where did humans come from? And it was like whether it was from what are the different, I can't even think. Like the Neanderthals or I don't know. But it kind of stumped me when he was like, where do humans come from? Because I was like, oh, it was kind of bad of me. I was like, I don't know if I have the confidence or the capacity to like share.
Well, when it's the first
in the
class,
first like 10
first
minutes.
Class too. Yeah, first time, yeah.
Like I don't want to be that person that's drawing attention to myself.
Yeah. And everyone's like, oh, it's a Christian in the
Yeah, and that's kind of the thought that I had. And then like it kind of made me feel a bit, not sad, but I was like, oh, I don't want to have to feel like it's sad that we sometimes feel like we can't share our true identity because we don't want to be the people that are drawing attentions to ourselves. Does that make sense?
It's like almost like an opposite of humility kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is hard.
So, I don't know.
Is that why you left the class?
No, well, I realised, because like I'm more environmental science, biology, and I have no history in chemistry or physics.
Yeah.
So I was like, I can't teach that.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And then at the time I was struggling with work. So I was like, well, I can't take on this plus working the hours that I'm working.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know what we're talking about. I tend to just go off on tangents.
No. As I was saying the other week, the byline of Chip Punch is the tangent.
Yeah.
The alternative title. Did you have anything you wanted to ask what Sarah's talking about?
Oh, well, we started off talking about animals. And so
sure.
Will I bring us all the way back?
Bring us back to the animals.
Back to the animals.
Oh. Did you have a pet growing up?
Yes.
I'm very like what?
We've had a couple.
Yeah.
So we had Emmy, and I recently found a video of I was 3 when we got her, and there's a video of my brothers chasing me around the house with her, and I was screaming, like I was terrified.
What animal is it though?
She was a Jack Russell mini foxy. Okay. So like she was like this big.
Yeah, right.
And like my mum's laughing, everyone's laughing, and I'm like traumatized. So I actually ended up, like she was like my best friend growing up. So I don't know if that's why, where my love for animals started. But then I also convinced my parents to let me get 6 chickens.
Mm-hmm.
So we had 6 chickens.
Mm-hmm. We've had chickens for a number of years. Yes,
I'm working on it now. I would like more chickens. Mm-hmm. And then I brought home a baby rabbit.
Well, you just found it.
My friend bred them, and I think she had them at soccer. And I was like, oh, I want a bunny. So I took home.
I'll just take this one.
Yeah, his name was Bugsy. And then, I think we had mice at some stage. Our neighbours at the time, they had a snake and they bred mice. So my brother and home were coming home one day from school, and we heard this rustling in the grate in the ground. We opened it and it was just this little mouse. So we took him home. We did have bearded dragons. They were my brother's bearded dragons.
What are bearded dragons?
They're lizards.
Yeah.
Oh, like lizards. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Like this big, kind of spiky kind of lizard.
Okay.
Yeah, they're funny. We had one and his name was Quagmire. And if you know bearded dragons, because they do like the iconic like head bubble.
Oh, okay. Right.
which is why he was Quagmire. And then my brother got a coastal carpet python. We still have him.
Snakes.
He's living under the house at the moment in an enclosure.
Just hanging out down there.
Yeah. So I guess we have always. And before getting my dog, Ivy, I was very close in getting goats instead. But
Goats instead.
yeah, still would like some goats.
We ever had a goat at church before? Yes.
Yes, we did have a goat.
We are a goat-friendly church. For people who remember that.
Yes,
that night.
I remember.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I
That's a lot of animals.
That's
it's a lot of animals.
And then plus the horses, because then
Yeah.
when after Libby, a friend from school had a horse that she wasn't doing anything with. So I had her for 2 years, like free leasing her.
Yeah.
But then they wanted to take her back. So then that's why I started looking again for another horse and got Ginger, which I've had for 10 years this year, which is exciting.
What does it look like to look after a horse? I think lots of people can think of like, I have a dog, I take it for a walk, I feed it. Like I'm sure it's similar in some ways, but different.
It's amplified.
Yeah.
So like there's a lot more maintenance.
Yeah.
Because like with a dog, you just chuck it some food and you're done. Whereas with a horse, you have to be a lot more mindful with what you're feeding.
Yeah.
And then like the cleanup is amplified. You're picking up like 10 piles of poo a day kind of thing. And like they're big piles. And like in all weather, you have to go out. Like it'd be torrential rain, which is actually like my kind of fondest moments, I guess. Going out in like the torrential rain and like you're freezing, the wind is like cutting your skin, but I guess it's the commitment as well. Like it's like, well, this is my horse.
I noticed you just brought out that word commitment.
Yeah.
Keep going. Keep going.
So like if I don't do this, no one else is going to look after her.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like a dog, you can put them inside, whereas a horse, and like there'll be like there was moments where the stable was flooding, and it's like I'm in there for like hours trying to flood, like get the water out and like make trenches and stuff like that, cleaning the water, and then washing them takes double the energy or triple the energy of washing a dog.
Yeah.
Because they're so much bigger.
Yeah.
And then
you got to brush them too, right?
Yeah, brushing them.
Why do you have to brush a horse?
It helps like distribute the oils in their coat.
Okay.
So like and gets like the dust out, and I always, now looking back, I would have saved a lot of money if I didn't buy rugs. Like I literally have like 25 rugs that I use to put on the horse to like keep her clean and warm in winter.
I see.
But like now I'm looking at it and I'm like, God has created them to withstand, like, because especially Ginger, she's half Icelandic, quarter horse and quarter Clydesdale.
Yeah.
So her breeding is for, cold climate.
Yeah.
So it's such a human thing to want to keep them warm. Whereas like when you're doing that, it's actually stopping the, what do you call it?
Like some kind of natural process?
The natural climatization that they have.
Oh,
because like
okay,
like when they're cold, their hair fluffs up.
Right.
And that's to retain the heat. Whereas you're putting rugs on, which is flattening the coat, which means that they can't do that natural process to heat them up, if that makes sense.
No,
so it's just like, here we are, man, trying to work against God in his creation, which I've only recently kind of processed that. I mean, there are moments like in winter, I would clip the horse. So then when you ride, because they get really sweaty, like waiting for them to dry, like they get quite chilled. So you would clip them and then rug them. So it's just ironic that, I don't know, just treating them like people, I guess.
It's like, it's a pretty big responsibility to have, like looking after an animal. Like, did you ever struggle with that level of responsibility, or was it always just like, oh, I want a horse, this is part of it?
Yeah, it was always just my life, I guess. Like even before like HSC exams and stuff, I would go out and ride and do like that was kind of my time.
Yeah.
To do my own thing, which I guess I've been struggling because my job last year that I've had until now, with the distance, I was finding it really hard to give her the time that she needed. And it kind of broke my heart in a way because it's like, well, I want her here, but she is basically just sitting in a yard. You know, I'm just going out and feeding and that's about it. Yeah. So I made the call to move her out to the property I bought her from, which is also kind of challenging because she's on 6,000 acres. She's being loved. She's being ridden. But then watching other people ride her. Yeah. And it's like, oh, like I'm a bit jealous in a way.
Yeah.
But like I think it's kind of a blessing in disguise taking that weight off me because I tend to, like I've got the dog and newly married and like all these responsibilities. So I'm hoping that I can bring her back and get into a groove, but it has kind of been nice. Yeah. Like I don't want to admit it, but it has been nice to kind of have that weight lifted a bit and not like, because where she was for the past 3 years, I had to feed morning and night. Yeah. So that's at Christmas, like that's all the holidays that I need to feed and provide the food.
That's early too, right?
Yeah.
Like what time were you? I remember you telling me a few years ago how early you got up.
Yeah, so because my work was in Epping and I started at 7, so I would leave home, I think, I'd wake up at 4:30 and then I was riding before work as well. So I would get out there like 5-ish, ride for a bit, and then I think I'd leave there at the latest at 6 to go to work. And then on the way home, I think I would get there 6 p.m, feed, do all the things, and then come home like 7:30.
Wow.
Yeah. Which in summer is fine, but winter, you know, you're riding in pitch black.
Yeah, right. How do horses go in the dark?
Yeah, they're fine.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's more like the biggest thing with horses, if you're nervous, they're nervous. Yeah. If you're confident, they're confident. Like your energy feeds horses. Like there could be, and like I think that's why I also find horses really fascinating because there could be the one horse and say you have someone that is just naturally like really calm and like really chill. They ride the horse. It's so lazy and, you know, barely doing a walk. Like it's just chilling out. And then you get someone who's just naturally anxious and like kind of on edge. They get on the horse and the horse is like bolting and bucking and doing all the things. Like it's just really interesting how someone's energy can feed into another animal and determine their nature, I guess.
So do you find when you first started riding that actually taught you to calm down yourself? Like because you knew that you needed to be calm?
I guess it's like a toxic trait I have. Oh, it's just a natural trait that I have. Like I'll be fine. And then I hit a point where I'm just like so overstimulated that I'm like freaking out.
Right.
So I've had to, like, especially when I'm riding, I would get, because like I've never been competitive. Yeah. But I guess where my horses have been, everyone's kind of doing the shows, doing the prep for the shows. So I kind of fell into that trap, even though I wasn't competing, but like I felt like I had to ride at a certain level to kind of be on the same level as everyone else. Whereas now, like I'm so fine with just accepting that like I'm never going to be the best rider, but I can ride and I just want to go out on the trails and just enjoy just being out in nature. But like there's definitely moments where I've been riding and I've kind of find myself being like, no, like I just need to chill out. Like she's doing the best she can. I'm the one that's stressing her out, and that's why she's not, I guess, cooperating, which it's such a like weird thought we are controlling another animal, whereas it should be a harmony. Like it should be like your dance partner, as opposed to you like manhandling this massive, incredibly powerful animal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting how much effect your like demeanor can have over one animal. What is that why equine therapy is a thing, do you reckon? Because I don't know anything about this. I only heard those two words.
Yeah, yeah.
But is that because some people are like, this is actually teaching me to
And
like self-regulate kind of thing?
I think so, for sure. And I do have some friends that like work in equine therapy, and they have different like clients that come in. But I don't know, there's something about horses, like they can feel when you're upset. Like when I'm sad and I've gone out to the horse, she just like, I don't know, like just nudges you in a way that it's knows, like she like knows how you feel. And like when I'm frustrated, she's frustrated, and I don't know, it's just really powerful to have that connection with an animal, because like you can't hide. Like with people, you can kind of put a facade on. You're like, yeah, I'm fine. Whereas with a horse or with a dog, you can't lie to them. Like they know if you're angry or if like deep down you're really frustrated. So it kind of makes you face that instead of putting it behind you. Like you need to accept it if you want to do well and, I don't know, maintain that relationship.
Being genuine again. That's what, like you said. So there's like, I'm just picking up those two things that you've talked about. There's commitment and being genuine, which is really interesting. So let's go back. So you finished uni. What was it called? It was conservation.
Bachelor of Biodiversity and Conservation.
Biodiversity and Conservation. So did you do that because you're like, it's important, the environment is important, because I want to, like, obviously your relationship with animals, it's important to have a good, a nice environment for the animals.
And I think as well, my dad's career has always inspired me.
Which is what?
He looks at the dieback of the river system from the mining impact in Papua New Guinea.
Oh, okay.
So he's more like surveying, engineering. And I just remember like when I was young, because like he's always worked from home, which is a massive blessing, because like mum didn't work, and then having dad home, I definitely took it for granted. Whenever I needed help, I would just, got mum there, got dad there, which, I definitely took for granted. But like I would just go in, and what he was working on, like say the GIS mapping, like I just loved it. Like it was just colourful and just looks really fun. So it's ironic that I've actually gone into, because when I finished uni, I was kind of stuck because my degree kind of touched on little topics. It didn't specialize in anything. So then when I left, I was like, oh, what do I do now?
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah. So like there was probably 3 years that I've been consistently, I think I graduated 2018, and up until like last year, I actually got a job in the field that I studied. But prior to that, I was just working for dad, which was amazing. But I also didn't, like I definitely could have kept working for him, but I didn't want to kind of leech off his hard work, because like it was his home business, and I kind of wanted to make something for myself and not just rely on him for that, like kind of get some independence. Even though like I would have loved like working from home, whatever hours I wanted to, got to go to Papua New Guinea with him. Like there was so many things that were really cool, but I think craved that independence to say like I've achieved this, or like I don't know, I think I was kind of settling for a period, and it was kind of disheartening because like I didn't know how to find work. Like I would look and I'll be like, oh, I'm not really qualified for this. I'm not qualified for this. Like there was nothing really that I was qualified for. So then I had a quarter life crisis, and and I ended up studying podiatry for a year.
Okay.
I think that was, I don't know, when was it? Not last year, the year before.
Do you want to show Sarah your feet?
No, I'm good.
I can do some neurological tests.
Ooh,
Oh wow.
But
with podiatry.
yeah, with podiatry.
The brain
Yeah.
that's in my foot.
Yeah.
There's like different nerves on your toes that you
Yeah.
do little foot tests.
Yeah, okay.
But I don't know. That was more. I don't know why. I think I kind of had given up on myself, and I kind of was like, well, I can't do it. Like I've tried this hard for this long to get something, and I haven't. So I'm just going to give up. So I did that for a year, and then, but still within that year, I was still applying for environmental jobs, and I honestly don't remember applying for this job. But I got a call and they're like, hey, do you want to come in for an interview? And I was like, oh my goodness, I have no idea who this company is. Like, I don't know what I put in my CV.
Yeah.
So then I had to try and look through my emails or whatever to find what they were expecting of me. And then got that job, which has been a blessing in that it got me, you know, actual experience that I can then transfer to other ecology companies. But what were we talking about? How did I get onto that?
Oh, it's just like, what were you doing after uni?
Oh, sure. Okay. So I'm on track.
Yeah.
Thought I would just double check. And then, but within that time, like I was working for a bush regeneration company, which I had like a backpack of poison killing weeds and like weeding, which Tyson didn't love because he thought I was like one of those jobs when you're on probation or something like that. He was like, Sarah, you're better than that.
Yeah.
So he's actually been a big push for me in a lot of aspects, like making me realize my worth and not like settling. Because I also worked, when I was doing podiatry, I was a receptionist at a podiatry clinic. And then I've also worked at a dog wash.
Okay.
Which I actually pretty much got. That's the only job I've been fired from.
Oh. What did you do?
Well, at the time, I'd applied to volunteer at the Royal Easter Show because I love the Royal Easter Show. And I was only casual at the dog wash, and like they would ask you your availabilities, and I'm like, oh, well, for the next 3 weeks, I'm not available for these days. And she was like, oh, well, sorry, I can't put you on anymore. I don't trust someone that works for free. And I was like, oh, okay.
It's a little bit odd.
Yeah. So I'm kind of glad in a way. Like I did like washing dogs, but it was just, I found it the funniest situation because I was like, I thought, I don't know, like volunteering your time is more powerful than doing it for money. But yes, I did.
Is that a mobile dog wash or is it a in a
it was
place?
Oh, I don't want to name and shame.
No, that's okay.
It was in a place.
It was in a place, an establishment. Yes.
Okay. I just thought you always see those mobile dog washers going around.
Yeah.
Like, they're kind of funny. Just driving around in a trailer and then chuck the dog in there and wash it and see you later.
Well, it's quite smart because you're using some like their water.
Their water.
So you're kind of sneaky in
What's
that
your
way.
fastest dog wash? Did you time yourself? Like get a PB?
I'm quite slow. I think because from washing horses, I'm very systematic. You hose them down first. What's my process?
This is horses.
This is
Okay.
horses.
Yeah, go.
Sorry. I digress.
I love this because I like washing cars.
Yeah.
So.
See, I find it very therapeutic. So first, especially with Ginger, because she has a blonde mane and tail. So
you got to bleach that blonde.
Yeah, so I've got purple shampoo.
I know how Ginger feels. Yeah.
So first I do the purple shampoo on her socks, her mane and tail, and her blaze.
I normally take my socks off before I get in the shower.
What's a blaze too, by the way? Is that the bit?
It's the white mark. So there's different markings horses have. So it could be like a snip, which is just like a little white mark, or like a star, which is just like a little kind of circle on the forehead. But like a blaze is like
a large
from like the head to the nose.
Okay, yeah, okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then I would get a brush and I put the soap on that and then just
Lather up
her whole body. But I would go from her neck, soap up her neck, wash, like hose that off, then do the middle.
Yeah, you're doing it in segments.
Do it in segments. But then at the last, I would do a final rinse
All the way.
You have to make sure that, especially if they're not rugged, you don't want to leave any suds in their coat because it can be quite as like harmful on their skin.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I'm a bit OCD with washing dogs, because I'm like, I need to make sure it's all systematic and it's all perfect because I don't want them to have like an adverse reaction. But yeah, I don't know. I found there was definitely some dogs I preferred washing. Their coat would go extra soft.
Yeah.
Whereas there was some that were a bit rough and I was like, oh, I'm not loving this. Or like I had to brush a pit bull's teeth.
Oh,
that was interesting.
Not the singer Pitbull.
No. I think that'd be equally a bit weird.
This is almost as bad as a dog.
Yeah. But
what song does he sing? I'm trying to think of
Mr.
one.
Worldwide.
Mr. Worldwide.
Oh, lots. I don't know.
I was going to say Murder, but that's
Rick Ross.
no, like Ja Rule.
Oh, okay.
Ja Rule.
Ja Rule.
An earlier version of rappers who get stuck on pop songs.
Thanks for that trip through time.
Old man. Do you have something?
Oh, I was just going to say we've briefly touched on someone called Tyson a few times. Yeah. It might be nice to dive in there because.
Should we do the TV story first though?
Oh well, where it all
began.
started.
Yeah. So we should say that anyone listening or watching is that Sarah's been on TV.
Yes.
I'm a star.
Channel 7? Channel 7?
Yes.
Someone's on?
Channel 7, I believe so.
Why didn't you say what? Was it Channel 7 or Channel 9?
No, Channel 7.
Okay.
I think I was the first one. Well, my season was the first for Channel 7. I think previously it was Channel 9.
Oh, yeah. I think that's maybe why I'm getting confused.
Yeah, because there was quite a big gap between the season before mine to my season, which was season 10 of Farmer Wants a Wife.
Right. So
yes.
Tell us, because this would be really interesting to hear. I mean, I feel like a TV star for all the podcasts I do, but
yeah, it was definitely an interesting, especially from the beginning, because like I would never have gone on. Like I previous didn't, or even now, I'd never watched reality TV.
Yeah.
It was only that an ad for The Bachelor came on.
Yeah.
And I mentioned to my mum, oh, I'd never go on The Bachelor. But if Farmer Wants a Wife came back, like I would go on that. Because like mum and I, years before that, would just watch Farmer Wants a Wife together.
Yeah.
And then a week later, a friend who I hadn't talked to in about, I mean, like we briefly chatted here and there, but it was probably a year. Yeah. Randomly out of the blue messages me and she's like, Sarah, you need to apply. And it was an application for Farmer Wants a Wife.
Yeah.
And so I kind of think like God did have a hand in it because like it was just so like just the timing. Like I'd literally just promised that I would go on it if it came back.
Yeah.
And then there it was like on a silver platter, like, oh, here's the application. Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll apply. Anyway, I did not expect anything of it. Yeah. And each time, because there was so many stages to go through, like a psych test, which I think they definitely need to do more of a psych test on a lot of the contestants. Like,
that's funny.
Like they didn't do the best job in that. Obviously for me, I'm
maybe
fine.
they were looking for certain things.
Yeah, definitely. But and then like group interviews.
Yeah.
Which the group interview, the biggest thing I got out of that was the first thing they said, like it was like 20 women and they were like, okay, separate into introverts and extroverts. And I immediately went to the introvert side. Yeah. But like previous to that, we were there for like 2 hours beforehand and I was like talking to people. Yeah. And I got up to go to introverts and everyone started yelling at me like, no, you're in the extroverts. But I identify as an introvert. Yeah. Right. I don't know, in some situations, especially big groups that I don't know anyone and there's no affiliation, I have more confidence because it's like, well, I'm never going to see him again.
That's so interesting. That's like the opposite of so many people.
Yeah.
Who maybe are more comfortable around people that they know, but like would be completely out of their depth with a big group of people. Yeah. That's so interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know. So they all yelled at me. So I went to the extrovert side.
Ah, you got bullied into it.
I got bullied.
Peer pressure.
I was peer pressured into it. Yeah. And then from there, because like I want to specify in my application, I did mentioned that I was a Christian and mentioned my values.
Yeah.
Just because I didn't want to get into a situation where it became a big thing. Oh, you didn't say this, that, whatever.
Yeah.
So like, then that day we then kind of came into a situation like this actually, where the producers were there. I had a camera in front of me and they were filming, and they were like just asking questions, I guess, to see how I was in front of a camera.
Yeah.
And then they actually asked me about my values, and like they asked some funny questions actually. They were like, oh, so does that mean you take your Bible, like you'll bring your Bible with you? Will you do this? Will you do that? Like I just found it really quite like humorous, like their expectation of, I guess everyone has such a different faith.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was interesting. But then actually from there, it was very interesting to see how reality TV is in reality.
Whereas it's actually very produced, right?
Like it's so manipulated. And even the first episode was actually filmed over 2 days.
Yeah.
And the first time that we were filmed, it was, so like everyone, like, so there's a farmer, and each farmer on the first episode has 8 women, which now looking back at it, it's just so wrong. I don't know. It's just not right. But anyways, can't change that. Anyway, so yeah, there's 8 women. And the first time we were filming, it was us 8 women kind of talking in a neutral setting while there's cameras everywhere and producers stopping and starting you.
Oh, wow.
And a producer had come up to me and they were like, oh, you want to talk about your values now? And I didn't, because I was like, it's not a topic that you just bring up. If someone asks me, I'll definitely, tell them. But I'm not going to be like, so like this is.
So I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And like how a relationship would be for me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so 3 times the producer had come up to stop the conversation, be like, Sarah, like you want to talk about it now?
I'm not surprised by this, but it's like how awkward.
Yeah.
Like, but not just for you, but like anyone.
For everyone.
Yeah, for anyone that's in that
anyway,
scenario.
So then they went up to another girl who was outside at the time.
And they're like, ask her.
Yeah,
Sarah
and she
about
came in and she was like, so Sarah, like, do you want to tell us about your values? And I was like, oh. So it was kind of like, I don't know, it was an uncomfortable, because I also don't like attention on me.
Yeah.
So then to be talking about something so personal in a situation that I know none of these people, it's going to be potentially on TV, what I'm about to say. I don't want to put Christianity in a bad light. Like I want to encourage people to consider the faith.
Think about it,
Yeah.
So like I was, I think, more nervous about being like a typical kind of Christian. I don't know. Like I didn't want to be the reason that people didn't want to have the faith.
Well, you're just also scared that they're going to construe it.
Yeah.
And you kind of, like they've already just been manipulating the conversation.
Yeah.
In like
Let's ask you something
ways.
really feisty about the Bible.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that? And then, Braden, ask Sarah something really.
That's such
So
a
it was definitely like a unique, and literally from that day, before, during and after an event of filming, like say like the weekly catch up with all the girls, or like before a date or before an activity, you would do a voxy, which was just you and the producers, and they would be kind of feeding you content to comment on in your own words, but they would do it in a way that would manipulate you in like how you would reply. And there were some times where I definitely didn't agree with what they wanted me to say, but it was like 3 a.m., 2 a.m. in the morning, I was cooked, and they would just keep going until you said what they wanted you to say. So I was at the point where I'm like, fine, like I'm really keen. Like, I don't know. Whereas like into week 2, I was actually like, you know what, he's not for me. Like, because you can tell when there's chemistry between people, and there was 2 girls that definitely had that connection, and I could tell that he was keen on them. So I'd actually like mentioned to him privately, like, you know what, I'm fine to go. And he was like, no, you may as well just stay. Like,
Lovely. So you're manipulating yourself now.
yeah, he was like, you may as well just stay, like enjoy the farm work, like that kind of side of things, which was kind of a blessing
Can
for
I ask,
me.
was this Alex, Harry, Neil,
Alex.
Nick, or Sam?
Yeah, it was Alex.
Alex.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just looking. I'm on the Wikipedia. That's all. Right. Okay.
Yeah, so good old Alex. And yeah, so I was kind of in a good position because I wasn't emotionally invested in it.
Yeah.
I was just there pretty much for a good time. But it did actually, like, there were moments. I think I only cried 4 times and I was there for a month. So it was like once a week kind of thing. Because I was the 3rd last. So I got kicked off just before the home visits.
Yeah.
Which I'm really glad, because to have my family
Involved
in that, which my brother was actually a bit disappointed by because he wanted to be involved.
On me on TV.
Yeah. But yeah, like just throughout the process, like one of the girls on my farm, like she would, because once a week we would fly to Hunter Valley. There was one time that we did go to Cairns, but every other time it was to Hunter Valley. And we were on a farm in Cunnamulla, which is like the middle of nowhere. Like we would fly, would go to the airport, Sydney, fly to I think Brisbane, and then fly from Brisbane to Roma, and then drive like 4 hours to Cunnamulla, like something like that. So it took like 2 full days of traveling.
Yeah.
And this is actually while COVID was happening and we weren't allowed phones. So I'm seeing everyone with masks and I'm like, what is going on? Like we had no idea about COVID.
Oh, wow.
Like it was right at the beginning where everyone, like I don't know, I think it was like the first month because it was, I got home on my birthday on the 10th of February in 2022. Well, when was it? When was the first COVID? Was that 2020?
2020, yeah.
2020. Anyway, but like through the whole process, they would always, during the Voxies, be like, so your values. And they were like, there was one moment where like I don't drink, right? Like I'm not a big drinker, but there was one night where I'd had like half a cider and whoa, party animal. But and like I wasn't tipsy or anything, but it was like the catch up with all the people. And I think I just got sick of everyone asking me to be like, you need to get alone time with Alex. You need to tell him about your feelings. And I remember like the producers prior to that, like they'd come into the bathroom and you're getting ready. They'd be like, oh, Sarah, you're one of Alex's front runners, but you kind of need to show him that you're keen. Like it was just so messed up.
So they're just telling everyone that,
just
right?
so manipulative because they kind of want everyone to have that confidence to be like, oh, okay, well,
I should
at least if I step up, I won't be shut down.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he was in a conversation with, I think, Jess at the time. Like they were sitting down on a picnic rug and I just barge in because the producers were like, you need to tell him that you want to have alone time. Like you want this date. So I was like, fine. Like at this point, I just don't care.
Yeah.
So I just went up and I was like, hey, Alex, blah, blah, blah. Like now thinking about it, I'm like, oh, it's so cringy. But in a way, like I don't regret it because it kind of helped me now looking back be like, well, I kind of have the strength to not feel like if someone tells me to do something, because like usually like I've never been peer pressured, like I was the first one in my year to turn 18. I didn't have my first drink until I was like 19, and when I say drink it was like a glass. So I've never felt peer pressured to drink, never done drugs, never felt the need to smoke, never felt the need to do anything. I don't know, because I'm kind of like in my own bubble of, well, I don't agree with that, so I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Like I've never felt the need to prove to other people.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess maybe it comes back to the animals. I'm like, they're in my bubble.
Horses are my drug.
Yeah. But like,
yeah, you were in this environment that was like all pressure.
yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Yeah. So it was definitely, and like one of the girls, she would come into my hotel room and she would jump on the bed and she'd be like, now, Sarah, you're the kind of girl, you can only get 10, you're the type of girl, you can only get one type of guy. Whereas I'm the type of girl that can have 10 different types of guys.
This is one of the contestants?
Yeah. And it was like midnight and she wanted to come in to use my charger. So I was like, fine. And then she's going on about this rubbish. And I'm like,
Yeah, she's just really
I
trying
honestly,
to destabilize you kind of thing.
I think she was a paid actress. I think I have.
Plant.
Yes, I believe so, because she would just bring up so much drama.
So he's trying to create drama in between you or contestants. So
Yeah.
That they could, yeah.
Like, because there was a moment that wasn't filmed and we'd had, I think, dinner with Alex's neighbor, who was like his best friend. And because myself and Brittany, one of the other girls, we weren't, you know, his front runners, we were just doing our own thing. So we were hanging with, what was his name? I can't remember. But he was just a lovely guy, like passionate on farming and all the things. So we were chatting with him. Anyway, the day after we were filming, and it was like one of the goodbye, I think he kicked Brittany off at that stage. But Henrietta brought up in the dinner, Sarah, don't lie to everyone. Like, you told me last night that you wanted to leave the show to go with Alex's friend, blah, blah, blah. And like, none of it was true. I was just like a deer in headlights. Like, oh my goodness, what do I do? This is being filmed.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want this to come across in a way, like, because like, I just felt so much pressure in that moment. And it's also the thought of people thinking something of you that isn't true.
So she's tarnished you with something that isn't true anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, how do I, in that like 3 seconds, I was like, crap, how do I like come out of this?
Yeah. Did you throw her your wine in her face?
Yeah. I don't even know. I think I was just kind of stuck and I can't remember what I said, but thankfully, and I was a bit overwhelmed by that. And thankfully the producers were like, well, we're not going to use it because it's so irrelevant. Like, like there's no, like we know it's not true.
Yeah.
But like I was quite upset. Like I was crying and like overwhelmed. And just watching the producers filming me, having to ask me these questions, knowing how distraught I was, I could see in their eyes, they were so uncomfortable. They were really struggling to kind of amplify my pain. And it just kind of made me feel really bad for them. Like, it's their job. They must do this all the time. And because like if you were crying, they would chase you to the bathroom and they would have to film you crying.
Yeah.
They must hate having to do that.
Literally. And like they would be like, oh, okay, put your mascara on. Like you're crying and, you know, doing like little things. And I'm just like,
this will look dramatic on TV.
Yeah.
People can judge you from their own lounge rooms and going, oh, she definitely wanted to go with that other guy.
Yeah.
Like it was just, and like they have to get the content.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very interesting. Like I learned a lot about life, I guess. Like how people operate and like to not trust. Because I felt like I was building a relationship with this particular girl because she was opening up about her faith. I think she identified as being a Buddhist, or she had a very like open religion kind of idea. But she was talking to me about my faith and I was like, oh, this is great. Like I can openly talk about Christianity. And then the day after she does that and I'm like, I felt like I could trust you and you just kind of chucked me out there in front of the wolves. So it kind of made me put my shield up a little bit and I was like, okay.
Not a little bit, probably a lot.
Yeah.
Like I would.
Yeah.
Like I'm not getting stuck in this ever again.
Yeah, literally. And then from there, but it was just like it's funny because then none of those farmers actually ended up meeting anyone. And
well, there's a whole list on the Wikipedia and one of the columns has like where the farmer was from, the winner, the runners up, and then one of the columns is still together. Yeah. And on your season, it's no.
Yeah.
It's just red.
Like,
it's all no. Look.
It's so interesting because like one of the farmers, none of the girls wanted to be there. They all wanted to leave.
Oh dear.
And then at the reunion, he ended up taking a girl he met on Instagram he ended up marrying her and having a child with her. So I guess that's a win for him. But like Alex, for instance, he'd chosen Jess as the winner. And then he then wanted to take her away to New Zealand, I think. And then the night before, he actually spent the night with Henrietta, which was the other girl, and then took Henrietta to the reunion. And it's like, it's like you came on this show to supposedly find love, and yet I don't know, I think it's just such an unnatural situation.
Yeah.
For one man to have all these women and you're on a farm, you're isolated.
Yeah.
For months, there's been all this anticipation leading up to potentially meeting, the love of your life. And like for me growing up, I think I had one boyfriend for 3 months, like after school, but I never, I guess, put myself out there. So I was like, oh, well, like this is it. Like I've made it this far. So I've got a chance that this will be something. And then you get there and all these lights and all these people, and then like you get into a week of it and you're like, oh, like this
is a sham.
This is a sham. I've been conned.
Totally.
But I guess it's, I don't know.
How did you get kicked off the show in Farm? Does the farmer just say no thanks? Yeah.
So
it's like no thanks. Like The Bachelor, who gives a rose to everyone.
Yeah, so we didn't get a rose. It's just a goodbye.
Goodbye.
A goodbye, or like a farewell dinner where he then kind of takes someone aside and says, look, this has been great, but goodbye.
That's weird.
And then like they film you like
leaving.
You have to pack like on that. Say he says goodbye, and then it's like you have half an hour to pack your things and leave.
That's every reality show, and they always film you in the car driving away and
like,
packing your
it's
stuff.
so silly because you would have to walk out like 4 times. So like you film it and then you go back and you walk out. You film it.
We've got to get the best one.
Literally.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It was definitely the most alone I've ever felt being on the farm. And
no animals.
Yeah. Well, there was 2 dogs and sheep.
Okay.
But like it just doesn't make sense because anyone knows a farmer does their work in the morning.
Yeah.
He was a sheep and cattle farmer too, I see.
Yes, but it was his dad's property. Like it wasn't his property.
So are you, because you were close to the end, is that right? Were you like the final 4 or something, you said?
The final 3.
Wow. That's pretty good though. Yeah. But then you already knew that it wasn't really going to happen.
Yeah. So like I think emotionally I was kind of like just there for a good time.
So how did you make it through then that far?
I don't know. Well, he did like in moments that weren't filmed.
Yes.
He was like, oh, I kind of see you as like a little sister more than anything.
Okay.
So it was kind of like we did
you kind
have
of
like
friendly.
a friendship.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, it was definitely an easy. I mean, it was.
So he was booting out the ones he didn't like. Is that was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then he kind of just nicely was like, "Oh, Sarah,
but yeah,
time to go."
Oh, bye, goodbye.
And I think I did still cry because like I'm just a crier.
But it's also a bit still of rejection.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Did you decide to develop a huge social media following after being on a reality TV show like most people do now?
No, well, it was really funny. Because I had a viewing party for the first episode, so I had all my friends come and like all my brothers, and like it was so cringy to watch. But like just watching on that episode, my followers went from like 500 to 5,000 within that one episode.
Yeah, okay.
And I was just like,
10X.
whoa, I got 20 more. I got 50 more. Like I can't, I don't have any care for the followers that I have because they're just randoms. So I'm kind of like, I don't know if I just want to start fresh because I want to share moments of my life with people that I actually know and want to, but like leading into the Instagram, because there was a lot of girls that had a lot of backlash and a lot of negative comments for different reasons.
Yeah.
And I'm really thankful I didn't experience any negative comments. I had so many girls, different ages, messaging me being like, thank you so much for being a voice. You don't know how much this means. Like I'm in a relationship, blah, blah, blah. And these are my values. And you've just given me a lot more confidence to stick to that and not be peer pressured or so. And like I literally had like 30 plus email like messages, maybe even more, and they were just all positive, all really thankful. So that's why like I bring it back to God, and I'm like I think if that's what my purpose on the show was, just to be that Christian girl, but like I'm at peace with knowing that I may have helped a couple of women in their like finding their values, and I don't know. It's kind of empowering to think that I had an impact on them.
In a positive way, definitely.
Yeah.
Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think like is the biggest thing you take away from doing that? Never do it again?
Never do it again. I definitely, when I have friends that have recently applied for like Bachelor or something like that, because I think they've seen me on it. So like, oh, if Sarah can go on it, I can go on it. Like there's hope. And I kind of discourage it in a way, but then in like, it's very emotionally challenging and isolating.
Yeah, totally.
But you will grow. Like I found a lot of confidence in myself and kind of worked out what I want, what I don't want, and also just like interacting with so many different people in a situation that is so foreign. Like it was just very empowering to be part of.
Okay. Cool. So then, well, we started this discussion about Tyson. So then
Shall we get to Tyson?
Tyson's not a farmer.
No.
So how did you end up?
Painter gets wife.
Yeah.
Painter gets a wife. It's like, who will be the next Michelangelo?
Yeah.
Yes. How did you get together with Tyson? How did you meet up?
Tyson. So I have always been against online dating. But then since being on Farm Wants a Wife, I was like, well, if I can go on reality TV, I can do online dating.
Yeah.
It's like a lesser of the intensity kind of options. So I think I had it for, I don't know, like it sounds bad, but I think I had it for like 8 hours. I had Hinge, which is what I met Tyson on. And I met him in the first 8 hours. So for me, it worked amazingly because I don't know, but he was just like, I don't know, because I think you match. I haven't been on it for a while because I'm married now. But I think
I've
like
never been on it.
yeah, like I think he commented because on Hinge you have like some questions. Oh, I think I had like what's true, what's false, and it was like have been on reality TV or can speak French or have been in a bus crash or something like that. And because I've been in a bus crash and on Farm Wants a Wife. So he was like, oh, I hope that this hasn't been, it wasn't this. Anyway, that's how we first started talking. And he was just, I don't know, I guess he was just super straightforward. Like there was no messing around. Like I find from what I've heard of friends and so on, it's like they're in a limbo. They don't know what the other person, because it's online.
Yeah.
Like you're so removed from the situation. Like it's easy to just ghost that person. Whereas we were talking, I think like within 2 days, he was like, okay, let's catch up. And our first date was really wholesome because he wanted to go for a walk in Cronulla. But I woke up and I was like, oh, it's a beautiful day to go whale watching. So I was like, do you mind if we go whale watching instead? So I ended up, this is actually really funny. We were meeting at the skate park because it's a bit funny to get to Voodoo Point. Like it's a bit, so I wasn't sure if you'd find it okay. So I was like, we'll meet there and I'll take you there. But I tend to get places early and I had to do a nervous wee. So so like I went to the bathroom, came out and I got into the car to move it closer to the entry so like I could see him because I'm a bit nervous, like I haven't met this guy before.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And anyway, he saw me get in my car and drive off and he messaged me and he was like, oh, like, where are you going? And I was like, oh my gosh, no, I did a nervous wee. I was just parking
Just
here.
moving the car.
Yeah, because he thought I'd seen him and thought, no.
Not that guy.
Yeah. But anyway, he got in the car, we get there. And he was just so thoughtful. Like he had chocolate and strawberries. And he also had a selection of his favorite tea, because I'd mentioned in our conversation that I love tea. So he brought tea for me to have when I got home, which I just thought was like really nice. Anyway, we spent literally like 5 hours at Voodoo Point just watching whales, but he didn't have his glasses, so I don't actually think he saw anything. I'd be like, oh look, there's a whale, and he's like, okay, yeah, cool. But yeah, it was just really lovely. And then we kind of didn't want to leave, and I was like, I actually need to go feed my horse, like it's pitch black now. And he was like, oh, do you mind if I come? Like I don't want you to go, like it's dark, so like do you mind if I come? And it was just so wholesome. Like he's never been around horses. And at that time I was also caring for a friend of mine's 2 horses, had to like unrug and do all that stuff. He had no idea what he was doing. He's just unclipping things, taking stuff off, putting rugs on. And I was just like, wow, like this is just really refreshing. Like he's, I don't know, could have been the adrenaline trying to like show that he is confident around horses, but it was just really nice. And then I think we went on a date the day after. So like everything, and because this was during COVID as well. So it kind of was really perfect in that we had a lot of time that we could spend together. But like doing walks and like not necessarily going out, because I'm not really a restaurant kind of gal. Like I prefer like a picnic or being outside doing activities. So yeah, and then to actually, before our date, I was like, oh, we should talk on Facebook or something. I think he asked, oh, can I add you on Facebook? And then I realized our first conversation on Facebook when I was in year 7, it's when you had like the family computer, and my brother had hacked my Facebook. And because at the time Tyson was actually at my school for 2 years, and he was in the year above me. I think, I was in year 6 or year 7. I think I was in year 6, and he hacks my account and messages Tyson out of the blue saying, "G'day, sexy legs. Did you know boats are just cars but on water?" And then Tyson's reply was so lovely. Like it was just like nothing random just happened. Whereas there were some other guys that my brother had also messaged, and their reply was not nice. So when I'd realised, I was like, oh, I don't want him to think I'm a stalker. Like there's this conversation. So it was just funny that like if we'd actually met or dated back then, we wouldn't be together, because I think like we had a lot of growing to do individually. Yeah. So it was just kind of perfect timing for us. And like I felt so comfortable meeting him, because I was like, oh, well, he's friends with all these people that I know, like Courtney Anderson and like, I don't know, just all these people and like Beck. And I was like, oh, okay. So like he has to be decent if he's friends with these people. So yeah. And then that's Tyson. What else to say? He proposed a week before our 1 year, which was very sneaky, because I wasn't expecting it, obviously, because I had mentioned I wanted to be together for 2 years before getting engaged. But I think like at this age, like, I don't know, if you know it's right, why wait? Like it's like when you're young, obviously, you know, wait till you're a decent age that you're fully matured. Whereas I feel like we like knew ourselves, we knew what we wanted. And it was just so wholesome, because I was really actually confused, because I always went into my horse's gate, the back gate into the property, and there was random roses stuck in the fence. And I looked at it and I'm like, I'm the only one that uses this gate, so I assume this is for me, but I'm not sure, so I'll leave it there. So I went in, and because I was so perplexed, and then I look and I see his car, and I'm like, if he's here, why am I feeding? Like I was so confused. And because I was messaging him like, hey, where are you? And I missed the trail of roses to Ginger's stable. And anyway, I saw his car, so I was walking up to him, and it was also raining as well. And then I hear music, and I was like, why is there music? Why is Ginger eating? Like there was just so many questions. I was so confused. Yes. And he was so nervous in how to open the ring box that he decided to just have it open instead of like opening it. And he had our song playing, which is Levy and Rose. And he had that on repeat, I think, for an hour. And it's a very short song. so I think by the end of it, he hated it. And the reason he had to feed Ginger was because she started eating the roses.
No.
So he started freaking out. Roses. He was like, have I poisoned the horse?
No, yeah.
So he was really freaking out. Anyway, he just launches out of the stable like... I don't know. I think he'd been there for a while that he was just like... here's the ring. Yeah. And like he didn't kneel down because it was like covered in mud and poo.
I was going to say, didn't kneel straight in a horse paddy.
Yeah. But it was just like so wholesome. And then he had an umbrella with like fairy lights wrapped around it and like a bunch of flowers. And it was just like he'd put so much thought into it. So that was really lovely. And then from there, we got married, which was really nice. Like it was really special. I don't know. I guess both of you are married, so you know what it's like to. I don't know. It was just like the best day of my life.
It's a good day.
Yeah, like I would happily like redo it, not change anything, but just to live it again, because it's like all your favorite people, and it's about your relationship, and it's just really special. Like I feel like that's the only excuse people have to really focus on their relationship. So that was really nice. I don't know what else you want to know about.
I want to ask the question is like, how did your family respond to you bringing Tyson home?
Well, I have 3 older brothers.
Okay.
Ooh.
So they had always said if I brought anyone home, they would be out the front with their shirts off. To intimidate.
You what, Tyson?
Yeah, but that didn't happen. But they all really actually, they were a lot more accepting of him than what I'd thought. Like I thought they'd give him a really hard time, but they were actually like really accommodating and lovely to him. And actually one of my brothers, Phil, I don't know where he is with his faith. There was definitely a stage where he wasn't, and that was more based on his experience with his friends. Like he needed a lot of help and guidance, but he found his Christian friends were really judgmental and weren't there for him, and his non-Christian friends were the ones that were there for him. So that's kind of his perception on like, well, they're not Christian, but they're still really lovely.
Yeah.
Anyway, but he has made a comment a couple times, like he never thought he would get along with my future partner so well, which I'm kind of like, what does that say about me? Like, who did you think I would end up with?
Yeah.
But like he like gets along really well with Tyson. Like he has like a funny sense of humor. Like he's very honest and like, I don't know, can't really hide from him, I guess. But so, and like mum loves him and dad does as well. So it's really lovely. And also like the McCall family have just been like, they're so friendly and welcoming and like, I feel like I couldn't get a better in-law family to have.
Yeah, we've had quite a few McCalls on the podcast, so I can understand that.
Yeah.
One thing that you did mention a while ago was your grandparents were Christians. How much does that impact your faith as well? Because like, we always make this point on the podcast. Brad and I both grew up in a non-Christian family. So we sometimes I'm a little bit jealous of not having that, but also like, it's kind of cool to, start a family and get married as a Christian. So how would you think they've affected your faith over time?
Well, I've got like such fond memories of, because like down at the basin, I don't recall it being anyone else, because I've got I think like 15 cousins on that side. But in the mornings, my routine was always jump in bed with my nana, and she would go through first writing the diary from the day before, like highlighting all the details, like went to like here, I don't know, like did this with the family, did this. And she actually has a list of all her books that she's mentioned each grandchild. And like when she passes, she's going to there's going to be a list for each page for us to read through that has like a special significance, I guess. But then she would go through, I don't know if you know the Daily Bread. It's just like a devotional, like it's a free devotional little pamphlet, and it has, I think, 3 months worth of daily devotions. And I'd always go through that, and like Nana would read the Bible and stuff like that. But I don't remember her doing it with any of the other cousins or even my brothers. So I don't know. I think, and she wasn't Christian when she was younger. I think it was later in life that she became a Christian. But yeah, definitely her. And like, she's just so cute. Like when she finishes the Daily Bread, she would go on the train a lot and she would leave it on the train, hoping that someone would pick it up and read it. And like just little things like that. Yeah, like my experience, I think, beginning with Christianity was more her influence than going to church, I think. But then also my other grandparents, they were both missionaries in Papua New Guinea for 20 years. Wow. So like Dad actually grew up in New Guinea and he came over when he was 17, I think. And I kind of held off getting baptized actually, because I never felt like I was truly ready. But I really wanted my pa to baptize me, but he passed away, I think 5 years ago. So I got baptized last year, which was really special. But yeah.
You did that at Swallow Rock, didn't you?
Yeah. So
That's
that was
cool.
kind of, I don't know, I always envisioned him, and I also envisioned him marrying me as well. I don't know, like those funny, but yeah, just hearing the stories that they had from Papua New Guinea also kind of shaped my faith in the just like super unique like stories of being out in the boonies and just the passion that all the locals, because I think he was in charge of a couple different villages, and like just the photos that they have of like hundreds of people from different villages dressed up in all their best like tribal attire, and like they would come all the way for church on the Sunday and just special things like that. So yeah, I think there's just been, so I think my grandparents have definitely had an impact.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. Just before we ask you the last question, you mentioned something about your Hinge profile that you said there's something about it's true being in a bus crash. What is that?
Yeah, so I think it was in year 6, and you know Heathcote Road?
Yeah.
The one, like the dodgy one, and it's like cliff and rock.
Yeah.
So I lived in Engadine at the time, and because my school was Barton Ridge, so I'd go on that. And I think it was in the morning, and there was a car coming from the other direction, and he'd had a heart attack, and he hit the bus, and then Anita, the bus driver, had the decision like, do I go off the cliff? Do I go into the rock wall? Like she had no other options. So she ended up going into the rock wall. The two passengers unfortunately passed away, which it all just happened in like slow motion. Like I remember sitting there with a friend, and then my brother was on the other side. And like it all just like, there was no pain to start with, and then because I had braces at the time and I hit my head, and so my lip was caught in my braces, and there was like blood on my face. And so Tom had called my mum being like, oh, we've just been in a bus crash. So then mum being mum, she got my eldest brother in the car, drove to the top of Heathcote Road, like where the Engadine Macca's is, but the road was closed, so she made him run the whole way down. Like we were kind of on the other end, so he ran the whole way. And because on the radio they'd said there was 2 fatalities, so then mum was freaking out that I was the fatality because I had blood all over my face. And I think Tom had to go in an ambulance because he hurt his back or something. But the biggest blessing with that was my middle brother Phil. He was in year 12 at the time, and you know like the back seat in the middle,
Yeah.
Like he would always sit there, and
Yeah.
he's quite like a muscly dude, I guess. And so if he was there, he would have just flown down the front of the bus.
Yeah.
So, but I think he had like extension English or maths or something in the morning, so he didn't go. Well, there was some reason that he wasn't there, but like if he was there, he could have gone straight through the window or something. Yeah, that was definitely an intense to look out the window and see the two people that were deceased. Like we didn't see them, obviously, they were covered up, but and just the chaos, like it was so quiet, and then all of a sudden everyone just starts screaming and crying, and like there's little kindy kids, and like just it was so much because like it was a kindy to high school.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a lot to kind of process.
Yeah. Was it, so if you're coming down the hill from Heathcote, is it before that bridge or is it after that bridge?
After the bridge.
After that bridge.
After the bridge. So it comes up and then there's like a rock wall. You can kind of see where the bus went into.
Okay.
There's like kind of a divot.
Yeah.
And Anita, she like shattered her leg, but even though her leg was shattered, she was still like helping all the younger kids out and stuff like that. Like it was pretty intense.
Yeah.
But it's just lucky that none of the students really had any major injuries.
Yeah. Bus crashes just never sound good.
No.
Shall we ask the final question?
Yeah.
You ask the question.
Okay.
Your turn. I feel like I
Sarah-
hog the questions too much. Sorry.
Looking back over all the things that we've chatted about this morning, which has been excellent. What do you think God's taught you? What is the question? I'm blank on it.
What would you tell your younger
What would you
self?
tell your younger Christian self
Yeah.
if you could have told her something, knowing what you know now?
I think not feeling like I'm not good enough. Like to not feel like I'm not good enough. Because I think
To know that you're good enough.
Yeah. I worded that poorly. Because being human, we're not perfect. And I kind of had that realization mainly this year, I think. Like no one's perfect. Nothing that we do is ever going to be perfect. So you can't live up to perfection. So I think when I was younger, I definitely didn't feel like I was good enough. And that kind of held me back a bit because I was like, oh, I can't do that. Like, especially like little things like competing with the horse or like Christian kind of circles at school and stuff like that. I didn't feel like I was good enough, so I didn't participate. Whereas now, like looking back, there's so many things that I'd wish I'd done, but I didn't have that confidence. So I think in everything, like just in life generally, I think, you know what, just got to put yourself out there and especially like not caring. Obviously you have to have some level of self-dignity, but like to not be scared of how others view you, and especially with your faith. Because I think the more confident you are with your faith, the more people respect that.
Because it's like they know that you've thought it through.
Yeah. Whereas if you just blindly say, oh, yeah, I'm a Christian, but you don't. I think living a Christian life is the best way to be an example to other people. But if you don't do it, like I've worked in capacities where other people aren't Christian and they'll ask me a question and it's like, well, if I shied away from that and felt attacked, then they would be like, oh, okay, she's a bit weird. Whereas like, I don't know, having that confidence to be like, oh yeah, well, so, and like explain my thought process in that. And then they can kind of go away from that being like, oh, okay, maybe that's something to consider. Like she's so sure of what she wants and like what she's getting out of the world and God and just in church. Like, because a lot of people don't understand church.
Yeah.
Like it's such a foreign concept.
It's just that building.
Yeah. Like like it sounds a bit weird. Like you sing together, you pray together. Like for people that haven't been, it sounds a bit odd.
Yeah.
So like trying to like make it lighter and be like, oh no, it's actually like really lovely. Like everyone's really supportive. It's like a little family, community. Yeah, I got a bit sidetracked with that. But yeah, I think mainly just having the confidence to truly be myself and not feel judged in the faith, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Pretty
cool.
broad.
That's good.
Oh, really? It's kind of specific as well.
Yeah.
It's been fun though having you on, because I think like we've had conversations before, but not as long as this one. And it's been good to get to know you. It's been great to get to know you a lot better. And I think I always just really liked, always today, I've really liked how you've talked about kind of seeking that you had like this committedness and wanting to be genuine, but you didn't have maybe the confidence that you're talking about, or the opportunity to express that. I think it's really nice. It feels really nice to hear you say that you do feel like you have that somewhat at Soul Revival, which is really, really cool. And I think speaks to the fact that God just creates us all like completely unique, kind of like the thing about talking about creation and stuff. Like no one has, at all in the world has the same DNA kind of thing. Like we're all completely unique and individual, but as a result, with church and stuff, that we are part of a community as well. So I think you've highlighted a lot of those things, which has been really nice and really special. So thank you. Did you have anything you wanted to add there, Braden?
Oh, just again, like
it's funny
lovely.
to hear stuff about Tyson. It's funny to hear stuff
It
about
is fun
Tyson.
to hear. I love Tyson a lot.
I want to try and get him on.
Yeah, we'll convince him to
get
come
Tyson
on.
on for sure. It's just really lovely to hear more about your life and the different things. And I think, aspects, but it's lovely to sit down. And also, as like we kind of pointed out when a camera overheated, but you guys won't know that. It's nice to kind of see someone put stuff together, because you don't really sit down very often and just like chat about you for a long period and like think through that kind of stuff. And it's always lovely to see like the way that you were kind of connecting dots and stuff was really awesome.
Yeah, I think that was probably my favorite thing of the whole podcast. It was really cool. Yeah, I like working stuff out. Like you kind of like when you got microphones in front of you, you forget about it, but then you're like, oh, we've got to kind of make this a piece of content.
Yeah.
So you kind of actually got to figure stuff out.
Put it together in a way that's, I don't know.
But I think you were doing that. That's what was cool. And I enjoyed hearing about reality TV. So that was cool. Let's wrap that up. And thank you for coming. It's always really nice to have, because you're a reasonably new member of the church too, which is like really cool to have, because we've had some old dogs on recently. So.
Definitely a lot of people I still need to meet.
Well, that's okay. Yeah, it's a pretty big church.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. But we finish every episode with one way.
Yep.
So let's do that. And thank you, Braden.
Thank you, Joel.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone listening or watching.
Yeah.
Washing?
If
you're doing your washing, listen to this podcast, great idea. Yeah. But you can also watch it on YouTube. But we'll finish with a one way. Thanks.
One way.
Nice.